Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about the key decision of international conference on the creation of the Versailles Washington system of international relation in our video, and so we are saying welcome for your viewing. And Treaty of the Versailles Peace document signed at the end of the World War I by the Allied and Associated Power and by Germany in the Hall of the Mars in the Palace of Versailles, France, on 28 June in 1990. It took force on the January 10 in 1920. The chief people responsible for the Treaty of Versailles were U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, French Prime Minister George, and also British Prime Minister David George, and Italian Prime Minister Ronaldo was a delegate but was not shot out from the decision making. Wilson sought to create an egalitarian system that would prevent a configuration similar to World War I from ever occurring again, and also the Prime Minister of France wanted to make sure that Germany would not be a threat to France in the future, and he was not persuaded by Wilson idealism. Lawyer George favored creating a balance of power, but was adamant that Germany pay reparation.
So, what were the results of the Treaty of Versailles? Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles under the protest, and the United States did not ratify the treaty. France and Britain at the first tried to enforce the treaty, but over the next several years, a number of modifications were made. Germany ignored the limits that the treaty placed on its remains, like we can say reparation. Payment of reparation proved ruinous, and the attempt was abandoned after the advent of the Great Depression. The League of Nations lasted for 26 years and had some initial success, but failed to advance a more general disarmament or to avert international aggression and war. However, laid the groundwork for the subsequent founding of United Nations. So there were many important indications made in the Versailles Treaty and many reparation towards Germany. According to the treaty, Germany was forbidden to have an air force, although they could have an army and navy. The Allies also made Germany vote to pay reparation to take care of the victors for their losses. So the four main powers that were presented on the treaty were the French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau, British Prime Minister David Lloyd George, and U.S. President Woodrow Wilson, and Italian Prime Minister Vittorio Emanuele Orlando. They met informally 145 times and met all major occasions before they were ratified. The Paris Peace Conference and Treaty of Versailles. This conference convenes in January 1919 at Versailles Place, just outside Paris. The conference was called to establish the term of the peace of after World War I, that we had a serious time on that period. To nearly 30 nations participated. The representatives of the United Kingdom, France, the United States, and Italy became known as the Big Four. The Big Four dominating the proceeding that led to the formulation of the Treaty of Versailles, a treaty that ended World War I. Also, the Treaty of Versailles articulated a compromise reached at the conference. It included the planned formation of the League of Nations, which would survey both as an international forum and an international collective security arrangement. USA President Woodrow Wilson, which was participating in this treaty, was a strong advocate of the League, and he believed it would prevent future.
According to the French and British wish, the Treaty of Versailles subjected Germany to strict punitive measures. The treaty required the new German government to surrender approximately 10% of its pre-war territory in Europe and all its overseas possessions. It placed the harbor city of Danzig and the coal-rich Saarland under the administration of League of Nations and allowed France to exploit the economic resources of the Saarland until 1935. And it limited the German army and navy in size and allowed for the war for the trial of Kaiser Wilhelm II and number of the higher-ranking German officials as war criminals. And in a picture we can see the peace conference table, and there is a in the left side the countries who won the war, and in the right side the countries who lost as the losers of this war. Thank you. Russia had fought as one of the allies until December 1970. So when its a new Bolshevik government withdrew from the war, and the Bolshevik decision to repudiate Russia outstanding financial debts to the allies and to publish the text of secret agreements between the allies concerning the post-war period angered by the allies. So the Allied powers refused to recognize the new Bolshevik government, and those who did not invite its representative to the peace conference, the Allies also excluded to defeat Central Powers. It means Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, and Bulgaria.
Under the terms of Article 231 of the treaty, the Germans accepted responsibility for the war and the liability to pay financial reparations to the Allies. The Inter-Allied Commission determined the amount and presented its findings in 1921. The amount they determined was 132 billion gold Reichsmarks, or 32 billion United States dollars. On top of the initial 5 billion payment demanded by the treaty, Germans grew to resent the harsh conditions imposed by the Treaty of Versailles. While the Treaty of Versailles did not satisfy all parties concerned, by the Prime President Woodrow Wilson returned to the United States in July 1919. U.S. public opinion overwhelmingly favored ratification of the treaty, including the Covenant of the League of Nations. However, in spite of the fact that 32 state legislatures passed resolution in favor of the treaty, the United States Senate strongly opposed it. Senate opposition cited Article 10 of the treaty, which dealt with collective security and the League of Nations. This article, opponents argued, ceded the war powers of the United States government to the League's Council. The opposition came from two groups: the irreconcilables, who refused to join the League of Nations under any circumstances, and the reservationists, led by Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Henry Cabot Lodge, who wanted amendments made before they would.
The Paris Peace Conference and the Treaty of the Versailles. The Paris Peace Conferences convened in January 1990 at Versailles, just outside Paris. The conference was called to establish the term of the peace after World War I. Nearly 13 nations participated. The representative of the United Kingdom, France, the United States, and Italy became known as the Big Four. The Big Four demanded the proceeding that led to the formulation of the Treaty of Versailles, a treaty that ended
cited Article 10 of the treaty, which dealt with collective security. The League of Nations, this article opposite argued, ceded the war power of the US government to the League Council. The opposition came from the groups, the Reconcilable, who refused to join the League of Nations under the circumstances, and reservationists led by Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Henry Cabot Lodge, who wanted amendments made before they would ratify a treaty. Paris Peace Conference. What were goals of major powers? France. Security against Germany, reinheld. Reparation, also Lawrence. Great Britain.
So, for summarizing, why Chairman Lodge attempted to pass amendments to the treaty was unsuccessful in September. He did manage to attach 14 reservations to it in November. In a final vote on March 19, 2020, the Treaty of Versailles fell short of ratification by 7 votes. Consequently, the US government signed the Treaty of Berlin on August 25, 1921. This separate peace treaty with Germany stipulated that the United States would enjoy all rights, privilege, indemnities, reparation, or advantages that conferred to it by the Treaty of Versailles, but left out the animation of the League of Nations, which the United States never joined. And thank you for your attention. This are our participants.